Alright, we're going to have a look at some gear cable outers. So this is the inner plastic sheath of a Goodrich cable. Really quality cable outers. The Goodrich, highly recommend them. So this is what the inner plastic lining looks like. You can see that little mark across there. I cut this thing open with a Dremel type tool, wire heated up, melted the plastic a little bit, and there's a bit of rust in there. That's what that is from. So I really want to answer the question, when do you change your gear cable outers? The simple answer to that is you change your outers when they're worn out. A little bit challenging because you can't see inside an outer. That sounds really good. So just trying to give a little bit of guidance as to that. So my gear cable inners last about 5,000 kilometers on the rear derailleur. Due to the number of shifts, it'll fray right at the top inside the gear housing. So I've got to replace them at about 4.5. So these gear cable outers have just done about 8,600 kilometers. So I thought, okay, I've just put in a third set of gear cable inners. So I wanted to sort of see what do the actual outers look like inside. So I took a sample from underneath the handlebars at the tightest bend, assuming that's where the most amount of wear is. And let's have a little look inside of them. So this is effectively the cross section. My hands are a little greasy, sorry about that. Alrighty, so that's what the cable looks like. So I've given that a nice clean cut. It is a little bit bent from cutting it, but you could see that I would argue there's not a lot of change or difference in the thickness around that plastic. It's not as though that's worn through, and this is where I would assume you'd get the most amount of wear. Happy to be corrected on that one. We also look down the middle of that. It's not as though it's sort of scoured out or has a whole lot of marks down the middle of it either. Look at another little sample. So there again, that's just another segment a little bit further down. In fact, as you can see from the little tail end there, this portion of the cable outer was just before it goes into the frame. So very much the cable would be running straight through the middle of this. It wouldn't be rubbing along the side because this part of the outer is going pretty much parallel with the cable. It's not bending the cable. So as you can see there, it looks very similar. I can't see any decent amount of wear across the sides there. I'll show you another section from a very bent piece. Again, I can't see any significant amount of wear or thickness variation across that. You could see that on the left there, it's been folded over from the scissors, but otherwise the thickness remains the same. So let's have a look at a brand new cable, has not been touched. Where are we? Alright, there we go. So that's what a brand new cable looks like. Again, I did cut this cable out, hence the little melted marks there from when I cut that with the Dremel tool. Otherwise, you can see it is in good condition. Alright, and there we go. So that's what a brand new cable outer looks like. Again, I can't see, well, of course there's no variation in wear on this one, but the thickness to that looks very similar to the thickness I'm seeing in the other cables. I can't see any difference between those. So yeah, this would be the third set of inners that have just gone on, that would have gone on this cable. So what would I recommend if I was to have a hazard a guess? I'd probably say change your outers every 2 to 3 inners would probably be a rough good guide there. Again, making sure that you grease them nicely so they slide a lot would probably help. I used a Teflon based PTFE grease on these. I'm using a silicone grease on the newer ones. That'll also keep out any sort of the ingress of dust, dirt, moisture as well. Use stainless cables, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But plenty of grease, that should keep them clean, that'll keep them lubricated. And yeah, I can't see a decent amount of wear, so definitely 2 to 3 inners per outer would be my recommendation there. All right, thanks very much.